All right, I'm going to describe for you the process of making a social contract with your classroom. And this is a process that I was trained to do through Responsive Classroom, which is for elementary school, and the middle school version of that is called Developmental Designs. So I don't take credit for this. I have seen this used with K through 12, with small classes and with entire schools. And I've seen it used with faculty as well. So I know it works. And so here's our process. So first thing, we want the individual student to simply create their own list, move apart from their peers by themselves, and to create their list of what they need to be successful in that setting for that year. And so they come up with the things you would expect them to come up with. I need it to be quiet when I'm writing. I need directions explained to me clearly. So it'll be a mixture of things they need from the teacher, things they need from themselves, and things that they need from their peers. And then the next step is to put them in pairs. And together, they need to come up with a few statements of what they can agree on that they need to be successful. So they have to look at both their lists, and then they have a few statements that they can come to consensus about. So we need everyone to be on time, for example, might be something they would come up with. We need the teacher to provide clear instructions. We need everyone to be quiet during quiet reading time. We need to be supported in our creativity. I've had students say things like that too. So it goes from the very mundane school rule type things to more philosophical, cultural type of descriptions that come out of that. And then the next thing is to go into small groups. So 3 to 4 students, I would say not more than 4. And have these students get in a group, and then they create a new set of lists. So they create probably 4 to 5 bullet points of statements of, we need it to be quiet in here, we need to be on time, we need we need to support each other's writing, we need to support each other's investigations, things like that. So they'll create a set of those statements, and then the next step is, as a larger group, could be the whole class, depends on the size of the class, or maybe you need to do one more layer of groups of maybe like 8 or something like that. And again, you create a new list of statements that as a group you can agree to. So we're looking for a consensus here. Statements that everybody understands. So everybody has to understand it, and everybody has to have a voice. And out of that, you'll create a list of you'll create a list for the class that are the statements of how we will be to each other. We will always be kind to each other. We will always be on time. We will never chew gum. It could be simple little rules. The older the students get, the more the rules become about culture and broader things. They don't even sound like rules anymore. And then the next step, this is how I've seen it work as a school, then you do a congress. And each classroom sends out representatives, and they spend probably an afternoon or morning, but at least half a day, they create a new social contract that is created by this representative groups that comes up with for the school a list of usually 3 to 6 statements that are the social contract that everybody will agree to. So then this is presented to the school or back to the class, and everybody can see that, okay, here are the 6 things that we agree to, and they vary every year. Again, from the mundane, we'll be on time, to very philosophical, we will endeavor to support each other's creative expression. I've seen students come up with a social contract like that. But in the end, you have this social contract that what I've done with it is make it into a poster and put it on the wall, and then everybody comes along and they sign their name to it. And they all sign their name around it, and then you have this poster on the wall with the social contract. And what this allows you to do as a teacher then is, if you have issues with a student, you can always come back to the social contract. Instead of a set of rules, you come back to the social contract and say, as a class, we agreed that we would all be on time. And so by you not being on time, you're not following through on this social contract that we've all agreed to. And then you can have the conversation about the natural consequences of that. How is that affecting them as a learner? How is it affecting them as a student? So it's really important that this first step gets done well and seriously, because it really is a coming back to and rooted in, as an individual, what do you need to be successful here? And that's all of this comes out of that. This is all related to, what do you need to be successful? And you keep stressing that we have this so that everybody can have success. Everybody wants to have success. So this is what the social contract is about. And this is really rooted in constructivism. And maybe even in some cases humanism, though it's often very hard to tell those two things apart. But a main tenet is that learning is social, and social learning is important to academic learning. And that we learn best when we are constructing our own understanding. So this is definitely the constructivism. We're our own understanding through exploration, through discovery, through practicing, and applying what we've learned both socially, so this is why it comes back to the social, and academically. So learning is social and academic learning is all about building your own understanding, and we do that often through our social interactions. And that really the greatest, let me start that over, greatest cognitive growth happens in a supportive community. You need a supportive community for that to happen. And so that's what this is really about, is we are trying to get the greatest cognitive growth. That's our language. In student language, that's success. We're trying to get the greatest success. And to do that, you really need a supportive community to do that. That's a basic principle of the responsive classroom or developmental designs. And then along with that, as teachers, we have a responsibility of teaching social skills, no matter what subject we're teaching. And so understanding how to be part of a supportive community is an essential social skill that we need to be teaching. And so we're teaching skills like cooperation, responsibility, empathy, self-control, and even assertion. You need to know when to be assertive for your needs, when to be assertive for other people's needs. And so then as a teacher, you need to know the physical and emotional, social and intellectual needs of your students. So you need to know not just what your students need academically, but also their physical and social needs as well. And all of this happens in a supportive learning community. And within a supportive learning community is where the most success will happen, or the most cognitive growth will happen. And so one way to set the stage for that at the beginning of a class is to have the students work together to make that social contract. And within that, you might have non-negotiable things as a teacher. You know, it's an art classroom, and there are things in there that are dangerous, and so you might put things on the list too that this is non-negotiable. You know, we won't throw clay, things like that. Though my experience with students is all those non-negotiable things that you think you have to tell the students, they will come up with. And in fact, you might have to coach them a little bit to come up with things that might be a little bit more meaningful about really supporting each other in intellectual growth, as opposed to just maintaining order. They know the rules for maintaining order. And really, the social contract is a tool to go beyond just maintaining order to creating a culture where they are supporting each other and then having their own greatest individual cognitive growth and success, which happens when they do it together, because the most learning happens usually in social interactions instead of individually.